While we try to be as helpful as possible, this podcast should not be considered as professional or financial advice. It contains general information only, and you should seek out professional advice for your own personal circumstances before making any financial decisions.
Welcome back, guys. I'm Julia.
And I'm Nick.
And this is the Enthusiast Lab. So today we are completely winging our episode.
As usual.
Normally we have a couple of dot points to work off, but we've looked over our episodes that we've done and we thought, it's a great time to kind of relook and
Do a refresher
and bring it back down to basics of how to get started.
KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. And today that is what our KISS episode will be about. What to do to get started.
Yeah.
Or how do I get started?
Yeah, so this is something that Nick does day in, day out, chatting to clients. So this is definitely going to be a Nick-heavy episode.
Yeah, it's a lot of the frequently asked questions. Like, hey, I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. I want to build. I'm sick of renting, or I'm sick of staying at my parents' place. I love them to bits, but I want my own joint. What the fuck do I do?
What do I do?
What can I get?
Yep.
And we're going to go through it all again. And we're going to make it nice and simple. If it gets too complex, sorry, not sorry. There's a lot to talk about.
It is what it is. So, that's the question we're starting with. So, I'm renting. I'm living with my parents.
I need to get myself more of these. And I'm looking at my big ass fucking coffee mug.
Nick is carrying a 1 litre Frank Green mug. It's technically a water bottle, but he's using it as a coffee holder.
Thirsty.
And in the hour and a half that we've been in here, Nick has drank...
Look, it's 42 degrees heat, and I've had multiple brain freezes from my iced coffee, but it was great. Worth it.
I hope.
And I'm also
repping.
So today, I didn't actually end up wearing my mystery shirt, but today, after 18 months of me chasing, I finally got my first Bloke's Advice shirt. So shout out to the boys.
Represent.
Yeah, fuck oath. I've been trying to get one of these shirts for they're always sold out.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I finally got one. So, yeah. Anyways, moving forward.
Okay.
Let's do it.
I'm renting.
How do I get started?
I'm living with my parents. I want to get out. I want to build my own home. How do I get started?
Okay,
what can I do?
So number one is come in for a chat. And the reason why I say that is because it's all well and good to have ideas and to get fed all this information from family and friends that might have done it. Their scenario will be very different to what your scenario is, right? So what I like to do with the info sessions and why I always say just come in for a chat. If you can get more info than what you started, then you're on the right path and I've done my job. The reason why is because the number one thing is finance. It's all good going to a fucking shop. What the fuck is that noise? Is that the aircon?
I don't know if you
guys...
It
sounds like a fucking mosquito dying. Like,
we can definitely hear
I can fucking hear it.
I was just ignoring it. I was really like in the zone with Nick. I'm like, yes, tell me more. All right, Nick, we'll continue.
All right, so after the aircon dies, basically, so number one is finances, guys. And when you go to a shop, it's all cool to fucking, to go and window shop. But the reality is that you actually want to know what you can spend.
Brian, what are you doing with that aircon? Just turn it off.
Just turn the cunt off. Fuck. All right, so with finances, what you want to be doing is
just go.
So with finances, what you really want to be doing is you want to know what the fuck you can afford, what the banks would actually lend you, and what deposits you need to bring, right, to the table so that you can actually get approved. Once you've established your finance and your budget and the time frame that you'll be able to apply for it, whether you're 3 months away, immediately ready, 6 months away, whatever it is, then you start looking at areas, land, what blocks are available, what size blocks are available, where those pricings are gauging in your preferred areas versus being 5-10 minutes further away if it drops the price a lot. Once you figure that out, then your house design. What are those needs and what are the wants? making a list and really, really cutting it down the middle. We're all known for it. Like, we're all guilty of this. Champagne taste be a budget. We all want $1 million property and not pay for the fucking thing.
Facts.
So, null it all out. Use your current property that you've been in, if you're renting or your parents' place, as a comparison. What do you like? What don't you like? If you really don't know what the fuck you want, a lot of people are like, I just want a 4x2. Okay, do you want your master at the front, in the middle, in the rear? Do you want your minor bedrooms at the front or in the rear? Do you want a bigger garage? Do you want a room dedicated for gaming? All these things start shaping the home, and if you're gonna build around your lifestyle and what you want. Otherwise, just go buy established. An established home is a block of land that has a house plopped on it. That's it. So if you don't care what it looks like, then fuck off onto established. Being dead set honest.
Look,
it's less hassle.
Buying established is not a bad thing. I just think that if you want to customize your home and really have
then
something
do
new,
it based on what you fucking want. You're paying for it. Be realistic and let's focus on those things. That's what it's all about.
And in today's market, trying to find an established home that A, is within your budget, and B, that you like, because just because a house is within your budget doesn't mean you're necessarily going to
100%.
like it.
Yeah, exactly.
It might be a house built in the 60s and has separate dining room, kitchen and living, and not a lot of people like that anymore.
Oh man, to be honest, a lot of these 60s homes, our fucking quad garages are bigger than like half the fucking house.
Yeah,
like,
so I think a lot of people are leaning or gearing towards the open plan living. So
yes.
even if it's in your budget, you might not like the home. And with today's market, people are just snapping up homes without even seeing them at the moment.
Yes,
So trying to find something within your budget that you like is going to be very difficult.
Very difficult. And man, for like what you're spending to buy, you can just build, and if you're in a good circumstance where you can wait it out that 12, 15 months or 18 months total from paying deposit to picking up keys, then you're in a good position to fucking do so.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
anyways, going through all those things. So when it comes to how do I get started, how much savings do I need? Something is better than nothing, right? If you rock up to my office with $0, yes, that means that, it's going to be a bit harder. Doesn't mean that you should, doesn't mean that you have to wait until you have cash to come meet up with me. No. The sooner you get your fucking ass into an appointment and start going over the options, such as you're in a stable job, you have some pay slips, you have a contract. Those are the key
employment contract.
Yeah, employment contract. Those are the key components that we need to start figuring out those budgets and finances. It doesn't matter if you don't have your savings. Like, it's all G. Stop delaying the fucking process trying to get to a figure when it might not be the correct figure that you need to go to. Sit in for a catch up. Let's work out what the budgets are and what the banks will allow and what deposits you need for those budgets. And then you can work out the time frame that it will take you to get to your savings. You might be able to get some help from family. Family might be able to go guarantor and get you in sooner. You don't know what fucking options will be open until you start the discussions.
You actually just mentioned it, and we had a really great Q&A last night or the night before.
Yeah.
Nick put up a poll on our Instagram, and there was a question that said, is there a stigma around guarantors?
Yeah.
And the answer is no, at least not in our eyes.
No, look, there's no negative stigma or anything like that in terms of guarantors. There's just not a lot of clear communication and transparency about what the risks are, what it's all about, and and the risks involved for the guarantor about it. At the end of the day, if there's spare equity that's not being used for anything and the guarantors are in a good position and can help their kids, then 100% fucking help them out, because it gets them into the market sooner. You're not locked in there forever. When that new property has 20% of that equity in, once the value comes into that part, you can remove the guarantor. There's a small fee. I think it's like, but depending on the banks, like $200-300, whatever. And you remove the guarantor in the beginning that was that against that security. And now that, the kids or whoever it is, that the original applicant has now got a home with 20% equity, and they were able to get themselves a foot into the door, whereas they might still have been renting or in a fucking shit situation, this entire time. So if the possibilities are there, it can definitely help. All it takes is a conversation.
Definitely.
And that's what what we're trying to get through with a lot of this. How do I get started? Come for a conversation. If you walk away with some sort of information more than what you started, you're on the right path. It doesn't matter. We all want shit straight away. Let's take a step back. This is a big fucking purchase. This shit is fucking daunting. There is a lot of things, there are a lot of moving components with this and a lot of money. If it takes a bit longer, it's okay. Get the right information, get the right path and the plan, stick to it. You can do this. There's so many that we've sat with and they're just going, we're not going to be able to do this. I'm like, man, pull your fucking head in. We can do this. This is how you step it out. It is a very far away, maybe 12 months away. But if you stick through these processes, touch base with us over the coming months, let us know how you're going. We've had a few, literally 2 years. And, you know, one of the chicks, she's changed jobs. She removed the original property that she helped her mum with. And now she's got a full-time job. And she's been touching base every 3 or so months. And to see the progress where she's nearly ready at that point to actually pull the trigger now. I'm so fucking excited for her. And how excited she is that she's, you know, we're still contacting all the time, even though like she's not ready to do it yet. But she's smashing those goals, getting there, and she knows it's getting closer and closer and closer to that one thing that she's always wanted. It's the same thing for a lot of people. If you have that conversation, and this happened 2 years ago, guys, that conversation, but you stick to it, and if it's what you want, you can get it.
And it will be so rewarding at the end.
100%.
When
it's
you
so rewarding.
pick up those keys, that's going to be so rewarding.
Oh,
knowing what
100%.
you had to go through to get that home.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
If it was easy, everyone would build a home and have a home. But it's not. There is always going to be challenges. There's a lot of money involved and there's a lot of things moving past, like we've said. But it can be done. And the biggest thing, like if people out there just want to know figures, this is it, right? The best possible opportunity for you, if the circumstances permit, is 5% deposit. So we're talking 25 to 30K deposit. That doesn't have to be genuinely saved. Sorry. It can be gifted. That's number one as a potential. All you need to do for that option, if it's still available by then, is to be a permanent resident or a citizen.
Mm-hmm.
The next option, if you earn too much for that opportunity, then the next one is 8% deposit. So basically 40 to 50K as a first home buyer. That gives you options for much higher borrowing, like higher packages, if you're applicable, if you've got enough income to be able to support it. As a second home buyer, you're going to need roughly the same amount of deposits, but then you need to cover the stamp duty and the fees on top, because as a first home buyer, that's normally waived for you. So if it was originally 5%, if you're working on about 10% deposit as a second home buyer, that gives you quite a few options and, you know, give or take a little bit more, a little bit less in savings, but it gives you a rough idea what you're looking at. If you're looking at, you know, 650 house and land package, if you've got about 70K savings, you're pretty good, because the stamp duty when you're building, guys, is based on the value of the land only. So it's always going to be less for the deposit contributions that you need to do compared to buying an established property. So it is it's always going to be cheaper to try and get into a home, into building a home, than it is established for those reasons. It's a bit less of a contribution you need to put through. For other people, what are the packages like? I want a 4x2 in WA with a quad garage. How much are the rough pricing? 2024, we're in Feb. If you're averaging around 630 to 750K house land package, like for a house land package, that will cover most of the areas in Perth on a 450 square meter block with a 4x2. Some may have a theatre and a quad garage. That is a proper 4 that will fit 4 patrols in there, raised up, so then you can fit a 6-inch patrol with 37s and it will fit comfortably inside.
Keeping in mind that the further away from the CBD you go, the cheaper the package will be.
100%. And the bigger the blocks may become potentially. Correct. So the closer you're in, the more you spend on the land, which is therefore, that is why it ramps up so quickly. The houses stay the same. The land is what changes. You can be within 10 minutes of suburbs and you could see an $80,000 to $100,000 fucking difference. It's fucking mental to see how much that is. Like, and people are like, oh yeah, but you know, the time difference. Man, if you can't wake up 10 minutes early in the morning in order to afford the home that you want and you can't see the value in that, then that's on you. But there are many people that will sit there and go, if I have to wake up that little bit extra to get the home that I want with the bigger block of land and I can afford it, that's fine. Because as a first home buyer, especially, most first home buyers will stay in their home for about 5 to 10 years on average. They don't normally stay 20 plus years because you end up, your lifestyle changes so much. Look how much has happened in the last 3.5 years with COVID and all the shit for everyone. So
you get married, you have kids, you get pets, whatnot.
Everything. So basically, most first-time buyers normally stay around 5 to 10 years. And the reason why a lot of the time is because lifestyle changes, work, partners, all that type of shit. But also you build some equity in the property. So that means that whatever your mortgage is owed for versus what the house is worth, there's always normally, a positive equity is when your house is worth more than what your loan is. And when you start having quite a lot of that, you sit there and go, well, it's just like free money that's just sitting there. How can I utilize this better? And a lot of times people then become a second home buyer where they use the first property and that equity as their savings for the new property. And now they can go, look, you know what? The first one was great, but we need something a bit bigger or a little bit smaller, or we need to focus more on other components of the home than what we did the first time. And now they can use the equity from that first property to fund the second one, and then they can rent the first one out or to get rid of it, whichever way they want to go, depending on what finance situations are like. So, and then, do you know what I mean? That's what you end up doing. So if you always work, as a first-home buyer especially, if you work on this property that you're looking for, that's going to be for yourself, that you can comfortably and grow into this home over the next 5 to 10 years and see a lot of value in that area that you're buying into and the location and what infrastructure is going in, and you can see growth over the next 5-10 years, that is what you should be looking for. And that's what I look for when I'm looking at options for people. It's going to be, I'll literally sit there and go, is this an area that I would consider living there with me and Julia? If it's a yes, I will present it to you. If it's a no, you're not going to build with me in that area. And I'm very adamant about that. I've knocked people back. But at the end of the day, I want to be able to sleep well at night, knowing that I've provided the right areas for people, but also and make sure that everyone fucking wins. And every single client I have helped since 2016 has made coin, has made profit. And I'm fucking proud of that.
So another question, I think, or a lot of thoughts that go through people's minds, because I know it went through our mind when we were going to build, is we have debt.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to do with the debt. Do I have to clear the debt? I have Afterpay. I have a car loan, whatever it might be. Do I have to sit with a finance broker for that? Can I just sit with you? How do I explain that information to you? And I think that's a big fear factor for people to come in with, because they think, oh, I've already got a debt. It means I'm not going to get
defaults or bad credit. Okay. All right.
Let's explain that one a little bit more, because I think that's a big question mark.
So the whole point of these initial catch-ups is to go through all of that. So if you've got debt, it's not the end of the world. Is it doing you any favors? Probably not, like being dead set, because it's against you. So what happens when banks are looking at you for what you can afford for a home? They're going, here's your income. What are your living expenses? So they reduce it. What's left over now is what you should technically be able to afford for a home. Now, if you have debts, it comes out of that allowance and gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And as it gets smaller, the less you can borrow. So the higher your income, then all of a sudden that grows back up. So if you've got quite a decent amount of income that you earn and you have one or two debts, it will be fine, because your income outweighs how much your debts are. If you're on a lower income, and look, let's just put as a rough idea, if you were earning 50 or 60K before tax, but you had a $40,000 car loan, you're not in a good position. And being dead set with you, you don't even need to be a fucking finance broker for this shit, because you're now spending 2/3 of your income into one loan. So how are you going to afford a property that is 5-10 times what your income is over 30 years? It is too much of a risk for that bank, and that's why they tend to not be able to lend you fuck all. So these are the things you got to start looking at, and it always starts with the conversation. Let's look at what your scenario is, because two incomes is a lot better than one. If you have one income with minimal debt, that's also very good. So the ones that I always talk about in meetings, and we've done it in podcast sessions and on stories, you don't want to be having payday lenders, like payday debts. And what I mean by those, it's those cash grab, easy to fucking, apply for loans that have very high interest rates. So we're talking your Afterpay, Zip Pay, Zip Money, Latitude, Hum cards. These are those real simple. You get in, you get approved like within 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You get your $1,000, but also if you don't pay those repayments, it's like 18% or something wild like that, right? Credit cards. Now, the reason why is because a lot of these are what's called a revolving credit, and that's why why banks don't like them, right? Because even though, let's say you have $4,000 limit and you don't owe anything, and you'll sit and be like, Nick, I don't owe anything. Like, why are you counting this? Well, in the eyes of the bank, they don't care if you don't owe. It's a revolving credit. Tomorrow, you can change your mind and use that 4,000 or whatever that limit is, because it's a revolving credit. It's always active.
Yeah, so it means even if I
exactly
say
as
that I'm not using it, but tomorrow
100%.
I have a bump on my car and I need to fix it, I use a credit card, all of a sudden I've used that money.
It's all about risk management. The bank is always looking at risk management. And this is something that I learned quite a bit of, like when we did our finance brokering course. Do you know what I mean? It was one of the big things was compliance, and another one was about risk management. And you look at it and it makes sense in the eyes of a bank. Regardless if you own nothing, that scenario can change. You know, God forbid something happens, you get into a crash, you need to get a car or get it fixed. The dog or the cat gets unwell, you have to take vet bills. And all of a sudden you've got this line of credit that you haven't been using, but you can access. What are you going to do? And you don't have savings. You're going to use it. So in the bank side, they're going, yes, you don't owe it now, but you may something may change. So the best option in those circumstances, we always tell people after we've assessed it with the broker, is you close those types.
Mm-hmm.
Because that way, once it's closed, you can't, do you know what I mean? It's no longer a risk for the bank, so they don't have to count it. Credit cards, same thing. It's all great if you have one. A lot of people do it for the points, fair enough. Like, we try that as well. When it comes time to a mortgage, reduce the limits definitely helps with borrowing capacities, or removing them completely. If circumstances change and you need to open one afterwards, that's on you. But in the eyes of the banks and what they're looking at, they're trying to mitigate as much risk as possible. So those things are risky. They have high interest rates. They can slap you quite bad with repayments, which then means that you might not be able to afford your mortgage payment. And the bank, all they care about is making sure that what they lend you, they can get back as much interest for themselves, obviously, as a profit, but to make sure that you're not defaulting on that mortgage. So if you're on any sort of income and you have debts, it's okay, but we will need to assess it to see what exactly you owe, where they all come into, and then assess from there going, all right, based on your income, this is what you can do with the debts. If you remove this and this is where it can go. And that's like creating that plan of attack, which is what we talk about.
Yeah, having a look at
100%.
the income versus debt ratio and taking it from there.
Dead set. And the guys out there, because I've seen, we get everything, right? Mm-hmm. We get all sorts of people come through. And even the ones, and I'm very quick to tell you, and it's not because I'm trying to judge you or because I'm a prick or whatever, it's just someone has to tell you. If you're using 2/3 of your income for a car loan and you want a house with no savings, it ain't going to fucking happen. Reassess what is important to you, and then we can actually try and create a plan of attack. Champagne taste, beer budget. If you need to find the balance, if you're going to spend all your money on a vehicle and you think that's your priority, then the house is not your priority. So therefore, you can't have the cake and then eat it. It just doesn't fucking exist. You need to prioritize what's important to you and be realistic. Once you've got those and you've then had to sit down, then you've assessed the finances and you know what you need to do, that's where you go from.
So I think also another thing that we've talked about in previous episodes is income versus savings ratio. Mm-hmm. Just because you have a huge deposit does not mean you are automatically guaranteed a mortgage.
Correct. So sometimes it's very interesting to see, like over the years, right? I see a lot of clients with very big income and obviously people on lower income, and the savings portions always fluctuate. And I actually tend to see higher savings with people with lower incomes for themselves as individuals compared to people with higher incomes with lower deposits, because they tend to spend more. The more you earn, the more you spend, unfortunately, especially with different lifestyles. There's always fucking exceptions to the rule, and we've had a few of them, but at the same time, as a rule of thumb, that's what we've seen. Now, When it comes to the bank, there's two parts to it. Again, we're not giving financial advice, blah, 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 all that bullshit, but this is just a common fucking sense, right? When the bank looks at what you can afford and what they're willing to give you to borrow, it comes down to two parts. What your borrowing capacity is, which means that based on your income with no debts, what are the repayments that you could repay based on the interest rates they can offer? And then the second part to that is what deposit contribution you can put towards it. The higher your deposit, the less of a risk the total loan will be because you're putting more upfront for that package.
That's more of your LVR. Your
Correct. Your loan to value ratio, so your LVR. So the higher your deposit, the better it is, which is why a lot of back in the day, the whole 20% rule of 20% savings, because that gets you the better rates up front with less costs in terms of lenders' mortgage insurance and shit like that, which then means you could borrow a little bit more. However, if you can only borrow $400,000 with your income, regardless if you've got $100,000 deposit or you've got $20,000 or $30,000, your 100 is still your 400 is still your 400 for your borrowing capacity. The rest of the savings, so what you end up doing is you find that sweet point where you put the deposit required for that 400, and whatever extra you have extra over that, then you can use that to top up your loan to create a slightly bigger package. So that's where the broker comes into play going, all right, if your total savings you've got is 100, like we just did this with a client now, a mother and son, and they had their combined incomes and they were getting quite a decent amount. So we said, cool, your combined income, this is what you guys can do. However, with the savings, you only needed 40, but you were getting 70. So the other 30 can actually increase your loan, which actually made them to create the package that they could now afford. And now they're doing their 4x2 home because of that difference. But their borrowing was capped at a certain point. So that's what it all comes to. It's just because you got 100K savings doesn't guarantee you're going to get a loan. Just because you're on big income doesn't mean that you're going to get a loan either. If you haven't got the cash to put towards what is required versus what you earn, it ain't going to happen. There's more to finance approvals than it is just simply those two things. Another one is credit ratings. A lot of people have had some fuck past in the past, basically, some bad history. And sometimes that can affect what can happen with your loan. With finances, like I can't go too much into it, but there is a lot of components that come into it before you can get an approval. How much your earning is, how much deposit you have, what is your rating, what is your history with repayments before. All these things are going, are you a more likely applicant that we should entrust with giving you so much money? The bank at the end of the day is always going to cherry pick the best clients that they can, that is going to be more preferable for them with lower risk than someone that has had bad credit with low income and all that, because it's more risky for them and sometimes they may not want to lend to that.
And keep in mind, different banks have different criteria.
Absolutely.
So this is why we always say, go to a mortgage broker or come to us and we'll talk to our mortgage broker rather than going directly to the bank you currently bank with.
100%.
Because you might not fit their lending criteria, but you'll fit someone else's lending criteria.
Exactly. No two banks are the same. Some of them have very similar lending, but again, each bank, even when you look at construction, it's different lending criteria and policies versus buying.
Yep.
And some banks are better in construction than others are. So even when you come to a mortgage broker, like we've done our fucking course, but like you either focus a lot more on established properties or you focus on construction. And construction is a lot more work and it doesn't tend to pay as much versus just doing established because it's volume over time.
Yep.
So a big one that we also recommend is if you are going to look at building, make sure you're talking to a finance broker that actually specializes and does quite a lot of construction broking, because construction loans are a lot more complicated. There's a lot more moving parts from land contracts, building contracts, valuations, the first homeowners grant, stamp duty exemptions. There's a lot more involved.
And it takes a lot longer.
Delayed titles, how do we work with that? Finance extensions. There's quite a lot more that comes into it versus an established property where it's normally, here's your pre-approval, here's your offer, let's do a valuation, you get approved and you settle within 30 days, next client.
Yep.
And that's all it is. So there is a lot more, and those, like I was saying, those policies with some of the banks, it completely changes when it comes to construction finance versus a established finance. So if they don't know what they're doing all the time, it can potentially cause problems. And this is someone you're entrusting with your life. Like this is, do you know what I mean? Like it's your life savings. It's a lot of money that you're moving around. So you'd want to be putting the best hands available on deck to make sure that they're getting you the best possibility of getting your finance approved and your home being built.
Yep.
You can always change banks in the future, but getting it approved up front is the most critical part. There's no point trying to chase the best interest rate ever if it doesn't get approved. It means fuck all.
Yep.
But getting the finance approved and getting the right path done, that can be critical, especially in times like now in 2024 when land is so crucially, like it's so scarce. The time frames that developers are allowing is much shorter. So if the finance broker takes too long trying to get the right approvals and misses documents, which can cause delays, and you potentially lose your block of land, they don't give a shit. Like the developers get to a point where they don't give a shit. They'll just move you on.
You made your bed and lay in it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then to the next person. Do you know what I mean? So there's a lot of things and potential risks. So you want to make sure that you've got the best team available for it. With Mr. Enthusiast, we have our finance brokers that specialize in construction. They do this shit day in, day out just for us because of the volume that we do. But at the end of the day, if you've got someone, no qualms. We'll work with them. But if shit hits the fan.
If they fuck up,
the very first, like I tell people straight up before they sign, if your broker fucks up, I'm taking over. I don't give a shit if they're your family, friend or whatever. They can get fucked to the side. We're now taking over because I'm not risking my time and my business and your fucking livelihood over some sort of friendship that you may have had. I want to get results, and if he or she can't get the result that you've worked with, we'll use who we can to try and fix this, and then deal with it like that.
well, I mean, look, being very blunt about it, at the end of the day, we're here to provide a service for you, which is to build you a home.
100%.
But at the same time, we don't get paid until you build your home.
100%.
So,
I don't want to waste my time or their time if we can't make this work.
like, no offense, but we're not going to be sitting here working for free with a mortgage broker that doesn't know what they're doing, that fucks up.
Well,
Like-
fuck. I'd love to work on charity, but at the end of the day, they ain't going to pay the bills.
No.
I can only wash the dishes so many times.
Okay, let's do a summary of that. So,
I don't know.
all right, I'll do a summary because you know what, we haven't done a summary in yonks.
In God, fuck knows.
Yonks.
Long
So-
time.
In summary, and realistically, at least for the clients that we look after and we work with,
Yes.
how to get started, it is reaching out, it is sending that message, it is booking that appointment, it is booking the phone call, the in-person meeting, whatever form of contact you prefer.
With Nick.
I mean, if it's with us, yes, but I mean, in
Always
general,
with Nick.
it is reaching out
Yes.
and putting your name out there and putting your contact details out there and saying, I am interested.
I am interested. And be honest, if you don't know, it's okay.
Like this is why
You're
we
reaching
are
out.
here. You know,
Yes.
you go to a mechanic because you don't know how to service your car. You go to a
I
baker
mean,
to.
I go because I'm lazy, but sure.
Okay, well, you're an exception, Nick. But like you go to specific trade people to do the job because you don't know how to.
And you prefer someone that specializes in that.
You want someone's expertise to tell you how to do that.
That's the word.
That's the word. So you come to people like us because this is our area of expertise. We specialize in creating a plan of attack for you to get a home.
Yep.
We don't specialize in established. If you want established, we can point you in the right direction.
No, I can't.
Well, we can point you to a mortgage broker that can point you in the right direction.
We can point you to a mortgage broker to help with the finance, and then the ball's in your court.
I go, after that, I tap out.
I'll tap out. Fuck that.
But at least you start the process by saying, I'm interested.
Yes.
If you get knocked back and you say, get told it's not right now, that's okay, because at least in our scenario, we tell you what the next plan of attack is.
Yep. What you need to do and how to get there. The ball is in your court after that if you decide to follow through or not. But we do, based on the info that we get, we give you the most ideal options that there is out there and most realistic options out there.
All that you need to be is employed. Come to our first appointment.
Yeah, pretty much.
Is a contract, employment contract. And
if it's a new job, yeah.
If it's a new job, and 2 pay slips.
2 most recent. If you're FIFO,
3.
up to 3.
That's all you need. That is how you get started. You have those documents, you come in for an appointment, and you have a chat. That is all that it is.
Literally.
at least in our scenario, we are not going to chase you. If it's not for you, you sit down, you realize, you know what,
That's fine.
I'm not interested. At least you know this isn't for you. We're not going to sit and chase you. Other people might, but we're
too busy.
It's not even that. We have been chased by other builders when we were looking.
Yeah, it's annoying.
And it's so annoying when you have constant back-to-back phone calls going, hey, have you made up your mind yet? No, fuck off. I'm still thinking.
Yeah.
We're not going to chase you. Just sit down, have the conversation, because at least you know where you sit financially.
Yep.
And that really is how to get started.
Yeah, like when you really dial it in, it's all about getting the ideas for the finances first. If you just simply want to know a deposit figure before you're comfortable enough to get to that point, that's fine. Start on 5%, 25 to 30K. If you are just adamant in your fucking idea of how you want to approach this is you want some savings before you get to actually having a conversation, no qualms. Probably the wrong way to do it in my opinion, but you do you, boo. 25 to 30, start aiming towards it. When you get about 2-3 months away, close to that figure, reach out. Let's figure out what your borrowing looks like. Let's see where it is and see if that 25-30 is still good, or if you need to top that up because your income is slightly different to what is expected. And then you just take from there. But at least you know you're on that good foot. We have people that literally, like we said, they just started a new job, they haven't even got the first pay slip, and they get in and they've already signed up because they know that within the next 3 months, by the time the land's ready, they're going to be in that perfect position and they can get the ball rolling. So many different options out there, and it all starts with a chat.
Yep, that's all it takes.
Man, it's hard because sometimes people, they don't want to be told, that they can't do something and shit like that. And I get that. But at the same time, you're better to hear it from me than to make up their own decision by yourself.
Yep. So, let's plug.
Yep.
Alrighty, so you can find Mr. Enthusiast on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, on our website, www.mrenthusiast.net.au, Google, YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify.
And TikTok.
I said TikTok before website.
Yeah.
And on our Instagram, we've actually got a link where you can book an appointment. It's on our link tree.
No, it's on our bio. You just click the link tree and it's got everything. Our websites, our fucking podcast shit, our YouTube. You can book in person with myself in Malaga. If you're in Adelaide, you can book a Zoom chat or a phone chat. Same as everyone else. If you're too busy to come in person, just book a fucking phone chat or Zoom. That's more than fine. We're available a lot, like all the time, basically. Thursdays and Fridays I take off, so we can actually do our podcast sessions and I can actually have my own time for my own weekend. Every weekend we're always working. We're always available. Mondays and Wednesdays as well, and in between, if you need something, reach out. If none of those times work, we can always make something work and work around you. But at the end of the day, it comes with a chat. Call, flick a message, Instagram fucking message. Like I'm on that shit all the time, and just reach out and be like, hey, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
I need help.
But I need help, and that's what we're here for. And we will give that help to everyone that wants it. We can't help everyone directly and we can't build for everyone, but the people that we can, I will bend over backwards for.
And I just want to mention, when this episode comes out, we will actually be on the tail end of our holiday. So in March, we're going away in Scotland. We're recording this in February.
Yep.
This episode comes out, I think, on the 14th of March. We will be on the tail end of our holiday.
But still message me. I'll still be on fucking Instagram.
Still book in because once we come back, we hit the ground running.
Yeah, so the way the booking system works is it shows 2 months in advance now from whatever day you're looking at. So if, for example, this comes out on the 14th of March, it would actually be showing all the way up until May, all of my availability, and that's fed live through my calendar. So that actually, if I have to end up booking something or whatever, that is updated immediately onto the booking system. So then no one, double books and shit.
Double books, yep. Leave a review or a rating. It helps us a lot in the back end. And just remember, guys, we're not here.
No, fuck it.
Okay.
We're not here
to fuck spiders.
Fuck oath.
Have a great day. Bye.